Hey guys, thanks for joining us again. Yesterday against Dignitas obviously didn't go your way entirely, but is there something that you may have learned from that set or something you can apply today against Black Dragons?
I think we just gotta clean up a few issues that we had. We've learned that I think a lot of our weaknesses were definitely exploited by Dig, like lack of communication, like clean comms, and also a few of our drafts we could have put more thought into it because we've never played against a team that caliber. So I think so now coming to Black Dragons, all we have to do is play perfectly and we should win.
As long as our solo doesn't feed, we'll be good.
0-8.
Well, I was just about to say that you guys sound confident. Let's say critical. But jokes aside, I think that's really important. You guys have made it here. How much of your success is based on being realistic about your performance, reflecting, and then going forward with a better outlook?
Well, I think to be a successful team, you have to have a growth mindset and you have to improve on your mistakes and learn from them. And if you don't, then you're just going to get nowhere and you're going to plateau as a team. And
It's always good to be realistic.
And I think that's what we're quite good at, is that we're all very open to criticism from each other, and that allows us to improve.
Well, Swifty, you were actually the coach for a couple of these guys before, now moving into the mid lane. I don't know why that's funny. Maybe you can tell us. But is that a mentality that you brought from your coaching days into the player position?
Well, I've always had that mentality even when I was a player before I coached for a bit. So I've always had that mentality, so I kind of just carried it over. And I have teamed with a lot of these guys before for a long time, so we've all had this mindset for ages, which is, why we are here, because we are the best for a reason.
Yeah, the best, yeah.
Is your mindset any different going up against Black Dragons as it was against Dignitas yesterday? Do you feel like do you feel more confident against a team like Black Dragons?
No, definitely not. I don't think, no matter who we verse, or at least for me, that I think of it differently. And I just kind of show up and play well. And play with my team. Doesn't really matter who we're versing. Like sometimes their strats will be different, or we'll like pick and ban differently because like different regions like different kind of stuff. But in the end, it's up to your team to come and show up on game day and play well, I think.
That's very true.
This has been a great chance watching you guys perform and everything. What do you think the biggest takeaway from yesterday's match versus Dignitas was specifically?
I don't know. We just got punished for every single mistake.
Yeah, like here we were playing perfectly and they just kind of punished us. I don't know, like there's nothing no, I'm kidding, but I think just like having better awareness on the map was definitely something we should have taken note of. I think one thing that really screwed us over was the Neath mid. They invaded our blue, and then Neath ult on top of that was something we didn't expect. So we made a joke about how Kayo was 0-8, but like it was something all of us didn't really see. So it's just like better awareness of the global pressure, I think, which is something that not really many teams in Oceania do.
All right, guys, great. Good luck today. Thank you very much.
And that was Envisionise and Swifty, members of Garn Servo, who's going to be part of the next set. Those guys, very happy as always. Australia region generally is, well, Oceania in general, but Australians specifically, always out there to have a good time. They're very realistic about their expectations, Taco.
I think they're also very realistic about what they want to try and choose to improve on here during the LAN specifically. Map awareness, I'm really glad that Envisionise brought that up because I think that has been by far the biggest issue that Oceania has tended to suffer from, in that they kind of get locked into this sort of mentality where let's just focus, this part of the map or this section of the buff, and they don't really notice what else is occurring around them whenever things are actually like breaking down. And so the blue buff example as well was probably the best one they could have brought up. Zeros with those Neath ults was just all over the place, left and right, not really giving Oceania much opportunities to respond. And so here today, I want to see them bring that self-analysis forward into their gameplay.
But it's good that they're constructively criticizing each other too, and they're happy to accept criticism. It's one of the hardest things to really do, is understand where you are and how to improve. A growth mindset is what Swifty was talking about there, and that's the man on your screen, formerly a coach of this team, now the mid laner for them. His matchup today, he's going to have Nann in the mid lane, who, honestly, on paper, Black Dragons, Nann's been around for a long time now, and one of the most recognizable faces in that mid lane for Brazil. How do you think he's going to do there, Swifty?
I think, in general, Nann has got to be feeling pretty good about things, because I believe you brought it up earlier, but they are actually scrim partners with Nocturnes.
They
and
are.
Considering how strong of a performance Nocturnes just had against Mashu boys, I am almost anticipating that we could see similar results happening here today with Black Dragons.
Well, that's Garn Servo. Let's find out how Black Dragons are feeling going into this matchup against Australia.
Is there anything that you could learn from your loss in that set?
I mean, I was very disappointing the first game because I started with Aegis and they just punished me for that. So we lost the mid lane and my team just had to play 4v5 for like 20 minutes and we just lost for that. And in the second game we were even until the second Gold Fury where we tried to trade this and they just started to play better in the team and started to play with the global ults. So we were late rotating, so we played really worse as a team, and then that's why we lost.
So you mentioned basically what I got out of that was you guys had trouble with the global pressure. Is that something you're looking specifically as you play Australia today, Garn Servo? Is that something you're looking specifically to fix going forward?
Yeah, I think it's mostly about how we reacted to their plays. I think we needed to be more proactive instead of like trying to follow the global rotations, which they are always going to be.
You guys yesterday before the game were talking about you need to watch out for Baskin. Everyone's been talking about Baskin. Now you played against him. Is he as good as you thought he would be, or did you feel like if you would have played around it a little bit better that you would have had an opportunity to still win that set?
Yeah, of course he's very good, but I mean they all are very good. They just play better, and we can see that they are grouping. Andy, Baskin, and Jeff were grouping and trying to invade, and as Kliz said, we were just late rotating, and we should try to do other stuff in the other side of the map, or trying to do something different. We were just late rotating and losing the fights that we couldn't win.
You've got a great eye in retrospect, looking at how you guys, could have done better against Space Station. How do you prepare for a team like Garn Servo that coming up next? What's your preparation look like before you start to get ready for a tournament game?
Mostly we just try to talk about what they did, like what we know they can do, because we can't see much, like we don't practice them, and there's not a lot of tournament matches we can see. So we just try to make sure we know a bit about our their play style, and mostly focus on our own strats, because we can prepare for like different comps and stuff. Make sure our comp is well prepared and we know what to do on like each comp, so we can play our win condition properly.
Is there anything from watching their set yesterday against Dignitas that you were able to pull out and kind of expect from Garn Servo, or is it just you expect them to play standard Smite right
now? We saw that like they played both times. They played double ADC of double Guardians. That's something that we can look out on the picks and bans. But I mean, it's pretty common right now to play double ADC after all the Seco jerk about ADCs being bad, So, I mean, it's probably just standard preparation, I think.
You guys, specifically Kliz and Nann, Black Dragons, you guys have really injected yourself into the larger Smite scene. North America and Europe, we know you guys, right? That's not really the case with international players. Do you think that's a positive for you guys as competitors to be on the popular side of things, so to speak?
I think so. I mean, I enjoy participating in the community, like sometimes whenever I have time to. So I think it brings a little bit of interest to the other regions as well, which I think is important. Most people don't really look at that, look at international regions that much, because we are usually worse than the other teams. But one way of increasing, the value of international regions is by being, active on the community and stuff. So I think it's important.
Thank you very much, guys. Good luck today.
Thank you.
And that was Nann and Kliz from Black Dragons, who now have this matchup against Garn Servo. Taco, the takeaway from both these two teams in the interviews that I'm seeing here, they're both on the idea of play our own game, play our own meta. And I guess that's what Smite's all about, really, because the meta is kind of decided by your region you play from.
I think the big difference, though, between the Oceania interview and the Black Dragons one is that Nann and Kliz as a whole, I think that Black Dragons as a whole seem like a team that are going to be looking more for taking up the initiative to engage. I really like that Kliz brought up that they wanted to focus on being more proactive with team engagements, because that does tend to be the case more often than not with a lot of these international teams. When they come to play against North America or Europe, they tend to just have to go off of this reactive play style, and I think that that's already probably a pretty big shift in comparison to what they're used to when playing against their own region. And also, now that they're having to deal with just like reacting to these teams, they can kind of look to take some of those team fights and some of those play styles that they've noticed from NA and EU and kind of mold them into their own.
I do like what we saw at Nann there in that interview as we're getting to pick some bands, where he was saying, like, listen, I fell behind. They identified the issue that everybody saw. Nann fell behind and he couldn't do much for the first 20 minutes. But what he was talking about was the proactiveness of the team on the rotations. If they're going to be late to the rotation, they need to punish them elsewhere. Let's see if they can do that against Garn Servo then. It's zGonnZ and Terra taken out first of all. Nemesis currently still available. I do feel like Terra, Nemesis, zGonnZ are the top 3 bands. Achilles is definitely one up there too.
Cerberus, I think, is...
Cerberus, really?
I think Cerberus has worked his way into the hearts of many, and he seems really strong, not even necessarily towards solo entirely. He can be thrown into that support role as well, although I think most people would prefer having the Guardian in the solo lane as of late. But also, I think that Black Dragons kind of recognize a sort of style that Garn Servo tend to lean towards, and that was the double Guardian, double ADC. I think that that was a prevalent meta thing throughout the entirety of the SGS. Even we saw a lot of that coming through from Oceanic teams, and now that Black Dragons is able to recognize those kind of things, I want to see them and reacting to it.
Nemesis available and open, but it will be Ullr for Black Dragons on the first pick here. Black Dragons with a lot of international experience amongst them. Nann has been here since Worlds 1, playing for We Love Bacon alongside Aimless, their coach here, but also has PIBE, who plays the support role for Black Dragons. He's been around since after Worlds 1, so this team's got a lot of experience. Then you've still got Kliz, who's a little bit newer to the scene from Brazil, but at the same time, he's very well known around the world.
You wouldn't guess it either with the way that everybody talks about Kliz. I mean, Black Dragons, it's not uncommon to hear it or hear them being referred to as Team Kliz, and that isn't a slight towards any of the members from Black Dragons. It's just that people really tend to love Kliz. I think it's awesome seeing when international players start to become more involved with the community. Kliz and Nann are certainly 2 of the standout players in that regard, and I think it's fantastic that they continue to involve themselves as much as possible.
I will say as well, Garn Servo have a lot of fun-loving players over there. Oceania, well known for the love of after parties as well as just enjoying themselves. Ravana and Fafnir for them. With the Fafnir pick here, is this already a sign? We saw Kliz mention in the interview that they did run a couple of double Guardians, a couple of double Hunters. If you're picking a Fafnir this early, it may spell that you might go that double Hunter route.
I think that's actually why Black Dragons chose to surpass, or not really surpass, but they kind of ignored picking up the Robin for themselves. I think that that could have been a strong acquisition, but I think that they wanted to focus around eliminating the strong double hunter strategy from Garn Servo. And
is Ullr a big part of that double hunter strategy?
I think so, because you throw Ullr into the mid lane, he's probably one of the best hunters you could have in the mid lane role because of that double ability start at level 1, and on top of that, he usually doesn't have too many issues with keeping up that lane pressure for the duration of the laning phase. His rotations throughout the mid game even can be pretty strong as well. So with Black Dragons having taken that, they could potentially throw in their own double Guardian, double ADC composition, and I think that would work out pretty well because they have the ability to do so, although this Hachiman pick can be concerning because it's really early on and very revealing.
Very revealing indeed, so it's double Hunter for Black Dragons guaranteed. Maybe in the jungle, we saw Mashu boys do it earlier on, I'm only joking, probably not, although Ullr can jungle, as you said, everyone can. But that means Garn Servo have this Fafnir. Now that you know they've gone double hunter, do you maybe mix things up a little bit and run something that's going to be able to deal with this double hunter? And exactly what would you suggest would deal with it?
I'm hoping that it's actually a Bacchus pick lock-in, because Bacchus would actually fare incredibly well.
But where's he going to go?
What do you mean?
I mean, where's the Bacchus going to go?
Well, there's a couple of different options.
I mean, Fafnir's going to support, right?
You could throw Fafnir into the solo line. They're probably not going to stay hard committed to this Bacchus pickup. I think it's mostly just them kind of toying around with things, but I actually would have really liked the belly flop interruption, because against gods like Ullr and Hachiman, they do tend to suffer a little bit more against the knockups, especially Ullr not having a CC immune ultimate.
Sure.
I think that Hachiman, while he's probably one of the more safe hunters in this current meta, he can still be punished if you have enough die potential.
So it will be Rama for Garn Servo here. Now, obviously, one thing we've not mentioned about Fafnir yet, but he does have that disarm, which is fantastic against auto-attack-based gods, and that's exactly what Ullr and Hachiman have. Do Garn Servo maybe look towards Bellona here as well to add some more disarm?
They could potentially, but the Bellona would be primarily for the Hachiman, and I think it could also be a bit of a waste as opposed to maybe going for another warrior like the Osiris, maybe. I think that an Osiris pickup here could be incredibly strong for the solo lane because he's also great against a lot of these hunters, even the Vamana.
Sure. I mean, I've been thinking as well, I'm just going down the disarm route in my brain, and like, AMC, if they want to run double hunter, AMC, the bees proc can, you know, give the disarm to those hunters potentially. Obviously, it influences Hachiman more because Ullr does have those ability-based focused damage application as well as just the basics.
Well, it's just Ullr, he changes stances, and the disarm's no longer applicable
I love
on
that
him either.
Well, yeah, but to be fair, you can't throw axes apart from one, which is a stun. But hey.
What do you mean? You switch stances in your auto attack.
So you switch
no
switch?
problem. Yeah, it just
I didn't know you could
switches
switch
in
switch.
Yeah.
So if you switch it to axe and then switch straight back to bow, you're
Not disarmed. You can switch stances.
That's
and
OP.
auto-attack.
That needs nerfing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why Bellona against Ullr has never been an ideal situation.
I never realized if you switch stances straight away, it's gone.
It's as soon
But
as
it's
you
not a
switch,
long
you don't have to
disarm
worry
anyway.
about it.
Sobek and Athena taken out, so both teams focusing towards some Guardian bans here. Specifically ones that can multi-purpose. Sobek can solo, can support as well. And Athena, the same sort of thing. Also for the jungle for Athena, although with Garn Servo having the Ravana already, we'll find out where things go with this. Garn Servo the next pick. Next ban, I should say. That a long, hard think there. Oh, he's got an intense stare, doesn't he?
I want to see a Ganesh.
Intense. You want to see Ganesh?
I want to see Ganesh for Black Dragons.
Why?
I say that because I think slows would be strong against the Ram, and the silence is also going to be pretty critical, I think, against the Ravana or the Fafnir, just to help make sure that Black Dragons do have the ability to free cast. And it's also just a really strong front line. Between the Chulainn and a Ganesh, I think that they would fare pretty well. There's also a Geb opportunity even, considering that Garn Servo chose to ban away the Ratatosker as their 4th ban selection. I am hoping that Black Dragons might ban Soul here, too, because it doesn't necessarily have to be another physical hunter for Oceania here. They can choose to play the Soul, and she still kind of funnels into that whole double hunter composition idea.
True. I mean, Freya, Chronos, Sol, they're also still available. We'll see what happens here. The Kernos is banned out. Kernos, I believe, was run by Garn Servo in the mid lane yesterday, so we'll see how that works out. At least it was definitely run in the mid lane yesterday. I think it was by the Australians, though.
I'd also expect that Garn Servo probably have a lot of experience with Kernos too, because Mingyu, another Oceanic player who is, I think his Kernos was by far one of the standout pick style play choices by Mingyu, and even though he's not on this team, I'm sure that Garn Servo have had to play against it plenty of times before.
It's my script. I mentioned Bellona and they picked Bellona. Like, I really did mean for the disarm, but I'm like, actually, I didn't know about the old thing. So there you go. Maybe Garn Servo don't either, but they should be more experienced with me in the game. It's back over to Kliz and the boys of the Black Dragons now. They need potentially a jungler here and a support if Ullr and Hachiman are going to take up the mid and the hunter roles.
Well, Oceania kind of has the... I think that they have the advantage simply because they didn't fully commit to a physical double hunter composition, and so they could introduce some magical damage in comparison to Black Dragons, who are just going to have to rely purely around this Nemesis, I think, if they want to really pack a punch into Garn Servo.
It looks like Garn Servo may be going for the mage option here. They're hovering over Raw for Swifty in the middle lane here. Black Dragons, very physical heavy, although the magical guardian you've got is one of the highest magical damaging guardians in the game in Ares. How do you feel about the Ares pick here?
Ares will be great for cutting off a lot of options, but at the same time, there's also a ton of concern because Bellona and Ravana, two great gods for swarming in Ares, I think, keeping him locked down in place. The Eagles rally as well, being able to provide some extra protections during team fights could be very useful. And Poseidon, just to really make sure that everybody gets shut down.
Yeah, I love that Poseidon, just because all Hachiman can't escape without beads in for the most part, unless they're going to use the Hachi ultimate. Ares, when he uses that no escape, he's just hovering in the air.
It'll be a risky one. I do feel, though, that if Black Dragons have perfect execution on every single one of their engagements, then they will most likely end up winning this game based off of their composition. But if their execution isn't up to par, then Garn Servo takes it.
Well, the players are ready. Let's get it over to the casters for this second lower bracket game of the day.
Thanks a lot, guys. Tom Battinger standing next here to Ryan Agro Bailey. And we've got Black Dragons versus, I've practiced it, Garn Servo. So
really? That's your practiced version?
Yeah.
I would have hate to have heard the non-practiced version.
Well, these two teams look very practiced. Black Dragons a little bit more so than OCE, if you ask my opinion. Black Dragons have looked really, really strong historically over the years, and even in this tournament. Let us know what you guys think and make sure to chat if you think it's going to be BD or Garn Servo, as I use the regular accent.
Much better this time around. But I'm inclined to agree with you. I think Black Dragons have looked like they have what it takes to have a Nocturne's gaming style set against E United, that like they did, where it's a very, very close set where honestly Nocturne should have come out on top. We said, you heard it on the desk, these two teams scrim partners, Black Dragons and Nocturnes. So if Nocturne's able to do that against the SPL teams, I believe that they can do the same against the SPL teams on their own right.
Well, let's jump into game number 1 here right away. Black Dragons playing against Garn Servo, and there was so I tried the pronunciation because that's really what the team name is, Garn Servo, which sounds like nothing. But so with the Australian accent, it's we're going servo. It's like going to the store. Just a little insight.
Do you think they like hit up an American friend and were like, how would you spell this if you said it just like as wrongly as possible?
No, I think that they can spell their own phonetic
No, I mean
pronunciation.
in an American accent. That's what I mean.
I think the key thing, what I love about it is that it really represents who these guys are. You saw in the pregame interview when Envisionise was up there with Swifty. These guys certainly have a lot of fun. And what was really interesting to me was we got like 5 questions in, and finally Envisionise kind of was like, look, we joked a little bit about Kayo feeding, but really it's about map awareness. And beneath that happy, positive, fun exterior, there is a lot of high-level Smite play here that can kind of be hidden sometimes by the personality.
Sure.
I don't really think I mind that.
No, not at all. And that doesn't surprise me one bit, because you don't get to the Smite Masters LAN, regardless of what region you're in, if you don't think about the game critically and how you can improve and are willing to take criticism. That was one thing that Swifty was very heavy on, was that he and his team are very good at receiving criticism from one another and learning how to get better from one another. And that's not something that every pro player, even in the SPL, can do consistently, is take criticism well and just understand that it's an opportunity to try and improve, and that's definitely going to serve the players of Garn Servo well.
Envisionise playing on this Ravana. Now, a little bit of background for those that really haven't kept up with the SGS. Envisionise, the definition of aggressive. This guy is always diving you. I mean, absolutely the definition of aggressive. That's why I love the Ravana pick. He's going to be allowed to sort of jump on in there. Only a little bit of aggression for nothing. The blink comes out, but nothing really going to be served up.
No, both Swifty and Envisionise are pretty healthy there. And look, Nemesis is pretty good in the early game still, but still not that good.
Uh-oh, PIBE going to get stunned out, but the sprint is pop dash forward from Destonate. Not good enough. So Fafnir, his active is on cooldown, but also Swifty got his beads burnt out in that mid lane exchange, so that's going to be one of the bigger differences.
All right, so worth the beads in that instance, because with no beads for Swifty now, it'll probably take PIBE a little bit too long to hit level 5 to really take advantage of that lack of beads, but Nann won't need to hit anything now that he's level 2. Just hits that axe, and all of a sudden Swifty is going to really be missing those purification beads, so worth it in that regard.
Poseidon here kind of thought, well, Kliz in trouble. There's the hammer. We'll find Kliz. Envisionise is dying. See, I think it's a little bit too early. Once he has that ultimate, it's really going to help. But I love this pairing for this player.
MarcelZ is on one of his signature picks as well, and those are the two that I think we could really see battle it out in the late game. Envisionise, being an aggressive player, is going to be looking for guys like MarcelZ in that backside to try and force them out of the fight or kill them very, very quickly. But MarcelZ has looked pretty good during his Smite Masters LAN here and has a good amount of international LAN experience as well. So I'm looking to see how those two match up against one another with two picks that they play very well.
MarcelZ is an interesting player in Smite, really. I find that most of the time, the successful Smite players and teams are the proactive ones, the ones that are kind of playing first and making the move. And reactive as a general strategy can get you out of holes, but it isn't a good thing to really lean on. But MarcelZ is a reactive player. He's the guy that sits in the back line and plays that real traditional hunter role, as opposed to the idea of a guy that like rolls forward and gets aggressive.
Right, exactly. And I think ADC is one of those roles that can get away with being reactive. Not many can, and probably, honestly, ADC is the only one that can really play reactive the majority of the time. But when MarcelZ does get a lead, he'll play aggressive. And that's the big thing, is that he knows his opportunities when he's able to play aggressively and when he needs to play reactively. And it just so happens that the way that Black Dragons like to play, it's a little bit more around the mid lane. And with a guy like Nann, you can't really blame him. He's a really, really great player for them in that mid lane. So why wouldn't you want to play around him? MarcelZ is kind of the secondary or tertiary win condition, and he understands that. And you don't need to play aggressive. You know, you can't afford to, when you are the safety valve, I think, for as MarcelZ is for Black Dragons a lot of the time, you can't afford to just die off cooldown because you felt like playing aggressive. You need to be consistent in that regard, and MarcelZ certainly fits that bill.
The Ram really works well for him because he's able to use the penetration with the arrows and go up in the sky and find those long-range damage. That's why we see the Aussies take away the Ram from MarcelZ. That's absolutely his go-to character for a lot of reasons. Envisionise making his way to the left-hand side, but Garn right there with him. So no surprise gank coming out from Garn Servo just yet.
Especially with Garn having the level lead right now over Envisionise. Up level 6 compared to Envisionise level 5. But take a look at the mid lane. Swifty's level 6 in comparison to Nann's level 5. So that just means that Garn has taken a couple more mid waves from Nann than Envisionise has from Swifty. And that's why we see the level disparity split between the two.
PIBE in some trouble as he's looking for the invade, cracking down. Swifty in trouble, Swifty down. Nann finds him with the bladed arrow, and that's going to be first blood. Destonate's going to be number 2. The double un for Nann.
Exactly how Black Dragons wanted to draw it up there, because Nann's the one who gets the double kill. You couldn't have put it on a better character right now for the Brazilian representatives, because he is your dude in the early to mid game. He's honestly Black Dragon's dude most of the games they play anyways. He's one of the star players for them, but certainly on something like the Ullr pick, that's how you want to be able to play it aggressively. And the Kraken from Swifty was used defensively, didn't even force out the beads or anything like that from Nann. And PIBE hits level 5 very early because of the assist, and then is able to just immediately pull Destonate back in. And there you see, that's how the pressure on buffs ends up working out in your favor. That a little bit of extra gold experience for PIBE and MarcelZ ends up getting the double kill for Nann.
And it's really rough for Garn Servo because they played the beginning really well. Envisionise left Swifty alone. I think it's more important for the Poseidon to hit level 5 than the Ullr. So rush your mid laner to the ultimate level. That makes a lot of sense. Everything kind of went well in that direction. But then what happened was Swifty was by himself when Black Dragons were with the entire squad. And one pathing mistake kind of negated the past 6 minutes of successful, what I think was the right choice of farming and splitting camps or lack thereof.
And that's what good teams like Black Dragons will do to you, is take that one mistake and really punish you heavily for it. And even if it wouldn't have gone particularly well, Nann gonna jump into the mid lane looking for Swifty because his beads were still down. Doesn't lose a whole lot for it, so I agree with you there. As Kliz, a little bit of trouble on this right-hand side. Envisionise gonna blink in, finds the root as well. Kliz doesn't have the ultimate, and Sprint comes out from Servo.
Envisionise still chasing this one. Kliz gets away, the hammer won't have the reach, and Kayo's gonna get punished. Garn shows up, cuts him with the scissors, and that's kill number 3, number 1 for the jungler.
And that's where I was gonna go right before Nann jumped in that mid lane, is that Kliz has been in control in this solo lane really, really heavily. He's got a pretty big level lead over Kayo, is now Envisionise. No beads or no ultimate either, and he's dead to rights. Another kill for Garn. He makes his rotation to the right side very fruitful for himself. But that's all because of the pressure that Kliz has been applying, invading blue buffs, keeping Kayo down in health and in just an XP overall, trying to deny creeps to the tower. And Black Dragons now has pressure in every single lane almost.
I love what Oceania did right there. They make sure to go ahead and confirm the red buff. 3 players strong. Last time, they sent their mid laner, and they got smoked out for it. This time around, they adjust, they adapt, they send 3 players there. Nann's there by himself, hoping to get the cheeky steal. Not the case because they bring it in numbers. Really nice adaptation from WGS.
MarcelZ has to be careful though, because I like Garn Servo's response, and that's to pressure out the left-hand side, the only lane where they have any hope of doing so right now, honestly. I mean, Nann is only a level up over Swifty, but that's an Ullr with completed boots and a Transcendence. You don't want to fight him in this part of the game. Kliz is massive now on that right side. Good luck ganking him as a Ravana who really does better at killing squishy characters than solo laners. So now Black Dragons really only have to worry about MarcelZ, and that's where that not passive nature necessarily, but reactive one is going to really benefit Black Dragon's Hunter, because he knows that he can play a little bit back right now and be okay.
Nann jumping backwards this time around.
I thought he was going to jump in, I'll be honest.
A lot of players, players like Kliz, even MarcelZ come to mind. XTT, player that didn't make land this time around. There's a couple of international players that are really, really well known. Nann showing up, providing some support for his jungler there. Nann is a guy that I wish people were more forefront about. This guy is a real standout player for me in the international scene. You heard him, the way he talks during the interviews, very impressive, understands the details of the game, and I think his play speaks for itself.
I completely agree with you. He is a premier mid laner in the international scene. There's no doubt about it. The consistency that he's brought to this Black Dragons team, the star power as well, a dude who can carry a game if you let him go off without any sort of checking. He's an absolute beast.
Well, trouble is Garn Servo tries to protect their red buff, and this one goes again to Black Dragons. So Servo was able to pick up 1, but this time it's going to be Black Dragons, and with a 2,000, 2,500 gold lead, they're looking to push it further. Gold Fury is the focus. Destonate coming through, 25% already. Gold Fury very low. There's the damage, and it's all Black Dragons. PIBE gets stunned out, but will walk away no problem. And Servo find themselves looking up at a 4,000 gold lead.
Yeah, Servo just kind of rolling over right now, it feels like. Just not being proactive in any lane, and that's what we were talking about earlier. It's so important to do that, and it's hard whenever your lanes are losing across the board like that, but I don't think that just allowing Black Dragons to secure Gold Fury without any real contest is a way to get back into it. You don't have to fight them 5v5 on that Gold Fury or 4v4, but show face a little bit. Force them to at least question whether or not they can do it.
It's the problem with that engage. MarcelZ gets jumped on by 2. Was that wasn't even the conversation. MarcelZ's gonna get aggressive. Up on the horse, up in the sky. Regan, 1 shot left, lands, and rolls away, gets rolled after. And MarcelZ with the big Z gets the big K. 5-0. Black Dragons lead the charge.
And that's the aggressiveness that we were saying MarcelZ can display when necessary. Regan's there. Feels like he's got the advantage because it's a 2v1 with the Destonate, but MarcelZ has the level lead.
Well, Gon's going to go ahead and blink on Swifty and force the beats. MarcelZ and Kliz are playing very similar games right now. They just kind of let the lane come to them, and we're very, very quiet. Dashing under a tier 2. Swifty in trouble. No beads, no life. Flip King is good for Envisionise. Can't say the same about his mid laner. Kliz and MarcelZ kind of let the game come to them, and then after they've got a significant lead, started to exert that. Kliz was under his tower for the entire game, getting ganked, and then he was able to invade back Harpies and invade these experience camps and stuff, and that's what we saw to MarcelZ.
Kliz has been on a roll so far this game, and he is so far ahead, and that's why I really don't like Kayo deciding to go for the Mystical Mail, trying to match the Mystical Mail that Kliz picked up, but big difference between being this far ahead and this far behind. Kayo invests a lot of gold into a mostly defensive but also semi-offensive item like Mystical Mail. It's not going to give him the protection and overall health that he needs quickly enough in order to be worth it, I think.
Speed is really the key. It's a very expensive item, so especially in between tier 2 and tier 3. I think you got to wait, what, 1,600 gold, something like that. It is a big, big jump, so certainly something that's going to kind of keep him behind. And this is MarcelZ. He's got the power. He's able to push up 3 levels above his direct opposition, and boy, do those basics hurt.
And that's the downside of what Garn Servo was doing earlier. That's sticking Destonate with Regan, allowing his mid laner Swifty to get a little bit more solo farm because he was behind Regan was trying to pressure out MarcelZ because that was the only lane where Garn Servo had a chance to do any sort of pressuring. And that's the downside, is that because of all that solo farm that MarcelZ got, Regan is just so far behind at this point that he can't take the 1v1s now that Destonate is rotated.
Yeah, it's just been tough. I like the, you know, it's interesting. I like the initial start from Servo. I like everything that you just laid out. That's not a problem in and of itself. It's everything that happened and the reactions after it. I mean, if that's the game plan, fine. Swifty died once, fine. Don't let him continue to die. Kayo over here getting dove. Look at zGonnZ. No tower damage on him because Kliz is taking it all the way in the back. Big pull by PIBE. 2 players pull to the middle lane. Nann just a hair short. And Destonate will survive. Kayo dies off screen in the right side lane, and Envisionise dies right here in the mid lane, and so does Swifty. The precision that Black Dragon just aggro, just bring it down. That was pretty
beautiful because PIBE applies the dot to Envisionise, and so Nann knows that he's good. Doesn't need to use any skills to finish him off. Not only does he not need to worry about getting that kill, but now he can save PIBE's life as well, being the aggressor onto Swifty instead, not wasting any time, hits the axe, jumps on top of him to secure the most damage he can as soon as possible.
Yep.
Beautiful by Black Dragons. Gotta love what we're seeing from him here.
All the while being in that yellow to red health range, just understanding exactly what you can give and take. Really important part. I think that was one of the bigger things watching the famous hunters like Barracuda and everybody really excel their game somewhere in the past couple of years, was watching hunters stay in fights with minimal amounts of HP, understanding range of abilities. That's really impressive to me.
And I think that all came from the time when Lifesteal was thought of as not very good at all.
Yeah.
No one was buying Devo gloves, no one was buying Aussie, no Blood Forges, nothing like that. And so hunters had to learn how to stay in fights without taking as much damage, because before, when you got a lot of lifesteal, you can take damage and it's not really a big deal to you. Once you start to build without it, it teaches you how to play a little bit better.
Oh, nice. The shot from the sky! Regan with the one shot takes care of the Gold Fury. Still 6,000 gold down, but that's certainly going to make the boys feel good.
And that's important in a LAN environment. It sounds kind of silly, but just feeling good about your chances. You know, it's been tough for Garn Servo so far. They get beat up a little bit by Dignitas, a little bit, not really the correct term there, I suppose. But now in Black Dragon's taking it to them in their first game of the set. You need something to start going your way, to start feeling like you're still in this set overall. And Regan, with a well-timed snipe, is able to do that for his team.
Black Dragon's pushing up here on the left-hand side. Servo should not defend this tier 1. Tier 2, I also don't like the idea of defending that one, but Black Dragon's going to look for the buffs first. I want to really take my hat off to Black Dragons about the specificity of when they chose to do all of this. We're going to rewind a little bit. Nann had his 3 items, Transcendence, Boots, and Crusher, where Ullr is arguably his strongest, when they went for that kill and the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. That's why they make that play. And not only that, he's got his power spike, and he knows that by killing those players, Gold Fury's going to be up about 30 seconds after that exchange. That's directly where he went. Nann was there as the Gold Fury was spawning. These aren't mistakes. This is not a coincidence. Those are timings that Black Dragons are incredibly aware of.
They're really good at their timings. That's why you heard them talking in their pregame interview about their set against Space Station, how they were disappointed in themselves, in their rotation speed, being on time for buff camps and that kind of stuff, because that's uncharacteristic for the Black Dragons. And you know, a lot of these international teams come in and they feel like they can win, but aren't necessarily surprised if they lose against an EU or NA SPL team. If you watch back that set against Space Station, you can see that Black Dragons is legitimately upset at themselves for losing to Space Station, who's one of the best teams in the world. These guys hold themselves to a very, very high standard, and it shows in their play.
It's funny. It's kind of like the Servo guys. Kliz is a fun-loving dude, and you don't always get that from him. But being able to be here at LAN a number of times and talk to him, I mean, after games, that's exactly where his mind is. I like that Nann goes up there with him, because you always get that from Nann.
Yes.
Homie is always all business, and I'm a party guy. I respect that from Nann. I like that sort of, yes, I'm here to win, and that's it.
He wants to, and honestly, they can. They can win games against some of the best teams in the world. I really feel like this Black Dragons team, the problem is, when I say they can win, I mean it but I mean that they have to play the best games of their lives and be consistent throughout an entirety of a match. And that's where Nocturnes fell short. Yesterday they played 99% of the best game that they could play, and then that 1% is what lost them the game. And that's what's so difficult for these international teams, is you have to be able to come in and play at peak performance for however long it takes. And even the best teams in the world don't do that very often. Playing your 100% best game is a myth that you're chasing most of the time. And Nocturnes almost found it yesterday, and I feel like Black Dragons, if they find it against whoever they play, they could be in trouble.
Kayo over the wall. Really tanky at this point, so he will get out of there. Despite the 4-man collapse on top, he accidentally triggered the Fire Giant, and Black Dragons will take that as an invitation to start it. Servo going to respond, and Destonate. Well, gone. 10-0 for the Black Dragons so far. Kliz making sure the jungler can't get involved. And the Fire Giant going to start up one more time. I gotta tell you, Ryan, Black Dragons really looking like a strong team.
No way. Gotta watch out for Regan yet again. He stole the last Gold Fury too early. This time around, though, no chance to steal away this Fire Giant. Frenzy was used by Black Dragons as well. It's getting lower, but Kayo's back.
And meanwhile, he's gonna pick up Nann. There's a pull from PIBE, though. 2 players get grabbed, and MarcelZ takes one all the way home. He's gonna pick up 2, actually. That's gonna be a dozen for Black Dragons. Servo do put themselves on the board, but perhaps too little, too late, trailing by actually only about 8,000, less than I thought.
Swifty needs to be careful here, though. Has to use the Aegis. Kliz leaps in and finishes off Regan, who stuck around just a little bit too long. Level 18, Kliz is kind of able to do whatever he wants. It's a Garn Servo right now.
That's a positive for Garn Servo, though. If you're trying to find a silver lining on everything, that's a Fire Giant stop.
It's true. That could have been an easy Fire Giant for Black Dragons, and someone killed Nann. It was Kayo who got it, so he gets a big boost of golden experience. So that's there is some benefit there for Garn Servo, but at the end of the day, it's Black Dragons who walk away with more kills, with more map pressure, and we're going to walk away with another Gold Fury. This time, I don't think Regan will be here to steal it.
A lot of this, I think, comes down to Envisionise, unfortunately. He picks this Robin, and he repeatedly tries to gank, in my opinion, the wrong lane. If Envisionise has the same level of activity, but makes different choices as to where to employ that activity, whether it's camp the mid lane, whether it's camp the duo lane, I just think that Kliz was the wrong target for him. And because of that, a number of just ganks that wound up with empty hands could have been something a little bit better for Servo.
I really feel like Envisionise's only lane that he could have ganked this game was the duo lane, but Destonate and Regan had PIBE and MarcelZ pushed so far back, they were basically underneath their tower for the most part, and it's difficult to gank when the enemy is that far back. It gives them an easy escape route to some safety. It's really just that Black Dragons was better at this game at being on time for invades. Kliz was invading by himself on the right-hand side, including very early on. And Nann was invading that red buff consistently. That's difficult to handle for a team like Garn Servo.
4-man collapse on Kliz, and he actually walks towards them. Ults the couple of them, and P.S. the rest of the team just, well, they're going for a servo run themselves. They're going to pick up the Fire Giant. Nice and easy. A baker's dozen for Black Dragons, and they're 10,000 gold. The Aussies as seniors.
I like what we see Regan doing here, though. Just split push that left-hand side. No chance for Garn Servo to even hope to defend this tier 2 on the right. Maybe even the Phoenix on the right is worth giving up in order to make sure that that Regan gets a much-needed farm on that left. And Black Dragons, seeing Regan back that long ago, are going to try and go for this Phoenix, but it won't be easy.
Nice defensive whirlpool coming out from Swifty. Kayo in trouble, though. Man, Nann so consistent with those abilities. Hail of arrows from a distance, even finding Kayo right there. Now switching the basics and looking for the Phoenix. He's gonna dodge out some of the nonsense, and meanwhile still providing it into the Phoenix. Trouble, 10%, there's a Kraken. It's jumped over. Destitute gonna dodge to the hand of the Ares after the pull. Regan from the sky. zGonnZ takes care of the Guardian. There's 2, and the Phoenix goes down. Black Dragons get what they came for, but Servo really bringing a fight here.
Yeah, Kayo's going to fall here, though, to Nann. Now Regan is completely out of mana. If zGonnZ has the slow, Kliz can blink forward, looking for him as well. zGonnZ's going to follow up with a blink of his own, trying to chase down Regan before he gets into his fountain.
Oh,
He'll get him.
He got him. That's got to be game. 4 players here with the Titan. No minions, so maybe not. Envisionise is here, healing up from the fountain. Here comes the wave of minions. Half HP on the Titan. This is going to be game number 1. It's all Black Dragons.
Man, impressive from Black Dragons in that one. And as we mentioned, they've been playing with Nocturnes. You expect that these two have been working hard at understanding the meta and where the right places to pressure are, and Black Dragon certainly made it look good that time around. The mid lane pressure seems to be really, really critical so far at this LAN, and that Ullr is the perfect pick to try and exploit that. It was consistently Black Dragon invades on that red buff over and over and over again, and Swifty just could never get off the ground because Nann was too far ahead.
Did we mention about the scrim partners? I don't know if we mentioned it.
Yeah, we mentioned it.
Okay, good. Black Dragons has been scrimming with Nocturnes. It's really interesting. Majority of Nocturnes players coming from Argentina, one from Chile, and obviously everybody on Black Dragons from Brazil. So nice and close there, and really boosting the international competition, I think, by a large amount.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Really fun to watch these teams and individuals come out. Let us know if there was an individual performance that stood out to you. MVP in the Mixer chat. Should be fun to watch that one. Game number 1 in the books. Let's break it down.
Thanks a lot, Tom and Agro. Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush with that one. That was a stomp. That was an absolute stomp. Black Dragons looked amazing from moment 1. They found, what, 1 kill for the whole game there, Garn Servo?
1 kill. The whole way through. They just didn't really seem to have much of a response, and I think that Kliz and Nann, what they were talking about in the interview, they absolutely nailed in match number 1 here today, in that they were the ones taking all of the initiative. They were the ones making sure to push forward, to continue grouping up and aggressing, never really allowing Garn Servo the opportunity to try and bounce back into this one. It can be especially difficult to recover against an Ares composition, because Ares is one of those Guardians who tends to prosper off of those strong early starts, which is exactly what Black Dragons were able to establish.
Yeah, feast or famine. That's what Ares is. And that time he was feasting, as was Kliz in the solo lane. He got your MVP vote this time. He gave him the Klizness, as it were, with how that game went. And that was all game 1 for Black Dragons. Playing the Chulainn. Had a relatively easy time against the Bellona, thanks to the support of his jungler throughout the game there. Good little work there from the whole team. Garn stepping up nicely for Black Dragons 2 on that Nemesis. Only highlight for Garn Servo, the Gold Fury steal from Regan. He managed to find the steal with the Rama, but other than that, they just couldn't find anything.
And I will say, though, that's actually really important, because Black Dragons cannot afford to have those kind of reoccurrences.
That's true.
During matchups against whoever it is that they end up going against, whether it's Rival or E United from today's shakeup. They cannot afford to make those same mistakes. No matter who you're playing against, you always need to be very focused towards the objectives and making sure that you don't drop those, especially when they should be free.
Well, thinking about